time for some dirty trading around here. Eric Bowling, not dirty trading, this is dirty trade. Eric Bowling takes us out into the field, gets his hands dirty to give you a clean trade. And tonight we're treading into some familiar waters, so to speak, to get an update on the world water crisis trade that Bowling has been telling us so much about for the past year. With us tonight, the CEO of the largest publicly traded water company in our country, and it's also one of Eric's picks for that matter, the boss at Aqua America, Nicholas DeBenedictis, on the fast line. And Nick, welcome to the big show. First off, give us your size and scope. What are you doing? How big is the business that you're in, and how big do you think it'll get? How soon?
Well, Dylan, Eric has hit the nail right on the head. This is a long-term business. We've been around for 100 years, intend to be around for the next 100 years, and we really make our money not by a hot summer and having more water sold, but long-term over investment. There's going to be $250 billion that has to be invested just in our country over the next 20 years.
Walk us through that. In other words, is it as simple as there are more people, and probably more people in developing countries that are becoming more middle class and more of a consumer class, China, India, and all the rest of it, and there's just not enough clean water?
Well, yes, that's absolutely accurate, and the number I gave you was just for the U.S. The reason for the U.S. is pipes are getting older, plants have to be upgraded, and many of our municipalities have not taken care of it and have deferred maintenance. So all this money will have to be spent because you can't live without water.
People tend to think of water as a public item. You move into your house or your apartment, you flip the switch, and the water comes out. What exactly is your business? What are you selling, and who are you selling it to?
Exactly right. What comes out of the tap, what you use in your dishwasher, is actually sold either by a private company or a public company. 85% of the market is municipal, public. There are only 10 publicly traded water companies, and there's about 30,000 small mom and pops. So part of the story, I think, for investors is the roll-up of these mom and pops and privatization of the 85% share of the municipal market into what I would think is more efficient capital in private hands. But
are you selling water per se, the actual H2O, or are you selling pipes and maintenance and filters?
We sell the water, Dylan, but what happens is in order to get the water to your home, we might have to invest in pipe, and that's what the regulators allow us then to raise prices on.
Eric.
It's a great story. What they've done is water, Aqua America has made a ton of acquisitions. Listen, there are a couple of things that I need to point out, though. The international water companies are just crushing them. I mean, Veolia and Suez are two favorite names of the show. A couple of stocks that have up 40% in a year, up 100% in excess of a year. What is it about the U.S. water companies that makes them kind of flat right now for the year? I mean, maybe
kind of flat. I mean, to that end, Nick, again, he points out the performance of the stocks of the international water companies. Your stock's more or less little changed over the past year.
That's right. What happened realistically is both Veolia and Suez, more Veolia actually went down so much 2-3 years ago. It's coming back to its old levels. Now it's hitting record highs because of the international water crisis. We had a huge run 3 years in a row. We've averaged 20% a year over a 10-year period, and we have been stalled, I have to admit. But the numbers are there, and the long-term market's there. So it's just, I guess, digestion.
So you think your stock simply was anticipating what you're now manifesting? So it was, again, there it is, evaluation over the year.
Right.
Is that right?
That's, I think, right. We were up 50% 2 years ago. I think probably got a little ahead of ourselves, and now has digested that. But, I mean, the long-term prospects, we've been saying the same thing for 10 years, Dylan, and delivering on it. Can't predict how the market will evaluate it with PEs, but the substance is there, and we're going to be spending the money on the pipe, which will allow us to raise the prices in order to get return for our investors.
Real quick, and then I'm going to give you to Pete and Jerry in here, but do you have international ambitions? In other words, as you watch Veolia and Suez perform, would you like to get more action in those markets, A? And do you view yourself, or have you been approached as somebody who would be acquired by either one of those types of companies or by a private equity firm?
Well, what's interesting, yes, we have been approached.
By who? Not by in name, but by category.
Yep, by both. As a matter of fact, Vivendi, which was Veolia's spinoff, owned 20% of our stock before they ran into trouble after they got into the Universal record business and so on, Seagram's.
They went from water to starlets and rock stars. It didn't work out. You want to do that?
So Veolia got spun off. It was spun off at an all-time low and has now built itself back up because it's such a predictable product and pricing is so predictable.
Go ahead, Pete.
I had just one quick question. You talked about acquisition, and I know you just finished an acquisition of an Aqua, Illinois company today or yesterday. Is SJW a possibility of somebody you'd be looking at right now as
What's
an acquisition?
SJW?
It's a water company out of San Jose.
That's a great company, by the way. That's one to keep your eye on.
They'd like you to buy it. What do you think, Nick?
San Jose Water, and we're actually, there's only, as I said, 10 publicly traded. We're the $3 billion market cap. The other 9 add up to $3 billion. So obviously, if anybody is for sale, we'd be looking. These are like collector cars, Pete, in the sense that you can only buy it if the owner wants to sell it.
Right.
Does the owner want to sell it?
Well, I can't say.
That's a great answer.
That company's been around a really long time. They have a ton of watershed. They own a lot of the land. What they do is they spin off some of that watershed, they take the cash and turn around and buy into other water companies. That's like almost like a bank. It just continues to churn and get bigger and bigger. That'd be surprising if they were interested.
And you can see where private equity have an interest in potentially a business like this, just on the recurring revenue scenario.
By the way, this is a worldwide water crisis. You have to separate what's going on out there and what's going on here. Worldwide, the companies like Veolia and Suez are cranky because of things like China and India and the world's growing. The companies here are what Nicholas mentions. They have pricing power going forward. They can raise their rates. I think it's 6%. He may correct me if I'm wrong, but around 6%. And once he's got the pipe in place, then you start seeing some of that tailwind from higher prices.
Well, the question for Nicholas is, and it's Jeff Mackey, how you doing, is what is the catalyst? We as a culture are just horrible at doing things like upticking our infrastructure. Is there a catalyst out there that increases your revenues overnight? Is there any type of mandate in the pipeline? What are you looking for in that degree? Sense?
The EPA enforcement will make the difference in the expenditures on plants, Jeff. On the pipe, if you read the U.S. News and World Report and saw some of the disastrous flooding of streets in New Jersey, New York over this last winter with pipes breaking, it's just it's a necessity. It just has to happen.
All right. Nick, a pleasure. Thank you for having the conversation with us tonight. That is tonight's Dirty Trade.